All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unit 10 on macroeconomics. You've made it. All right, this is our 10th and final unit here in civics and economics. So we'll start off strong and review macroeconomics and kind of what the definition is. So it's the study of choices in entire industries or countries. All right, so if we think back to the beginning of Unit 9, economics itself is a study of choices in a world full of unlimited wants and limited resources. And in Unit 9, we talked about that in terms of one business or one household, one person. So we're going to kind of apply that to a global setting now with macroeconomics. All right, so this is review from Unit 9. Go ahead and jot this down real quick while you're listening. Make sure that you have your arrows going in the correct places and the correct directions. All right, so we know taxes go to the good old government, and in exchange, both households and business firms receive services. If you as a household member are a consumer, you give money to businesses, and in exchange, they give you a good or a service. Now, on the flip side, if a household is a producer, you give them your labor, your time, your effort, and in return you get a wage or salary. All right? And for banks, both households and business firms give banks money in the form of deposits. That could be a savings account, it could be a loan payment, and they also give them APR because you know interest makes the world go round. And in exchange, the bank loans out money to business firms and households and receives APR. Now, this little bottom right hand corner, the foreign sector, we left that alone during Unit 9. But now we're going to kind of pick that up again in Unit 10. All right, and this is where this little section at the very bottom right-hand corner of circular flow of money and economics, this is where our Unit 10 lies. All right, so if all of that money coming from a country goes outside to other countries, all right, if we, as the United States, are sending goods or services to outside countries, right, those are called exports, and in exchange, we get money back. Now, on the flip side of that, if a country decides to put money or goods or services into the United States, those are known as imports, and in exchange, we give money back. All right, so kind of this trade balance and how it works is kind of the crux of macroeconomics. And I hope that you remember what mercantilism is because you've got a question coming up. All right, so for those of you who did not do so hot in the question, or maybe for those of you who did, the first part of mercantilism, all right, which is a review from many, many moons ago in Unit 1, all right, is that wealth is measured in gold, all right, and those countries who had the most gold, therefore, had the most power. All right, the second part is that colonies produce raw materials for the mother country. I really had to abbreviate here, so make sure that you actually know what RM and MC mean before you just go writing down on your notes. All right, and of course, the third and final part of this is that you must export more than you import in order to have what's called a favorable balance of trade. All right. So if you export more than you import, essentially, if we boil it all down, it just means that you are selling more than you are buying. So therefore, you stay out of debt and you retain a profit. Okay? So here's our old colonies from way back when and our balance of trade. Now, speaking of trade, should the United States trade with other countries? Yes or no, and why? What could we gain? What could we lose? All right. Hope you're feeling comfortable with this because you have a question on it coming up. All right, we'll do a listening check real quick. If you can hear me, because you are actually listening to this rather than looking at the closed captions, please draw a smiley face in the very upper right-hand corner of your note sheet. I will check for this. All right, so how does trade actually look? If we were to put trade onto a map, how does this look? All right, and here's a little example here, an interactive map for you. So if we were to look at how all of the world, let me zoom out just a bit here. If we were to look at how all of the world interacts in a day and all the goods and services that travel back and forth between countries, this is kind of how it looks on a global scale. So here's us in the United States. If we were to just click on the U.S., all right, that's what we got. Now, if we were to click off of the U.S. and talk about the whole world, it's lighting up like a Christmas tree. All right, there's all kinds of stuff going on here. All right, now if we just click on, let's zoom in a little bit. Oh, not that much. Or that much. All right, now if we go here to this little hub, this is just China. All right, over here, this is just India, so not quite as much trade flowing in and out. All right, let's click on just France right here. And over here to just Germany. All right, and then the UK. Let's zoom back over here to our good old US of A. All right, there's all kinds of trade happening both inside and out of the country. So if we were to put it on a map, that's how it looks. All right. So speaking of that favorable balance of trade between exports and imports, does the U.S. have a favorable balance of trade? Statistically, the answer to this is no. All right, because the United States, since we and other countries here on this map are in red, that denotes that we are importing more than we are exporting. So we are buying more than we're selling. If you'll notice, the countries that are in green, China, Russia, Germany, Saudi Arabia over here, Venezuela, Argentina, Chile, right? All of them. I think Panama is green over here in the corner. Cuba is actually green as well. Parts of Indonesia, I think, down there. All right, so the green countries are exporting more than they're importing. Now, a lot of these green countries have some things in common. All right, so over here, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, they are huge exporters of oil. All right, there are a lot of oil deposits in their countries, and so they ship them out to other places. Now, China and Russia are in such a favorable balance of trade because of their exports in manufactured goods. Because, like we've kind of discussed just a little bit briefly in Unit 9, the reason that so much stuff says made in China on it is because China's labor laws aren't quite as strict as they are here in the United States. Their minimum wage is much lower compared to ours. So here in the United States, our minimum wage is $7.50 an hour. In China, it runs you about $3 or $4 an hour. The work day over there is not 8 hours a day and getting paid overtime. It's about 12 hours a day, and then you get overtime. That's a rough estimate, ballpark. But it's much cheaper for countries over here in Asia to produce materials to send over to other countries, right? It's cheaper, so of course, if you want to make money as a company here in the United States, you're going to let countries in Southeast Asia, Central Asia, parts of Europe, you're going to let them do all the hard labor for you and send you back the finished product to sell to make the most profit. All right, so if we were to put our trade balance in terms of how much we owe to someone in terms of size as well as a map, all right, here's how it would look. So India is not actually this small on a map. It's just smaller because of the less money that we spend there. All right, we've got a favorable balance with Chile, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, Australia. Ah, poor little South Africa's over here in the red. All right, so here are all the countries that we do have good trading balance with. So the Netherlands, Belgium, all right, Singapore over here, Hong Kong, which is a little like subsection of China, I guess is the easiest way to say that. All right, and these red countries we are not doing so hot with. They get a lot of our money, we don't get a lot of theirs. All right, so when we talk about trade and federalism, you know I love talking about some federalism, so here we go. All right, so what do we trade at the federal level? What does the United States trade as a whole? All right, so what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses, or what goods and services are imported? I wouldn't necessarily call this a full-out weakness in trade, but what areas could we do a little bit of improvement in terms of importing and exporting? We are rock stars at capital goods, except for automotives. All right, so cars, we get a lot of those from overseas, but we're very good at capital goods. Remember, capital just means all the stuff that humans make. All right, so industrial supplies, we're shipping out quite a few of those. All right, food, feeds, and beverages, particularly alcoholic beverages, get shipped around the world quite a bit. Coca-Cola brand is responsible for a lot of this. The Coca-Cola company ships a lot of product to very many countries around the world. All right, and then, of course, underneath federal is always state. So here in North Carolina, what do we trade? What do the people want from us? All right, so the tourism industry is a big deal. People come from all across the country to go to the beaches in North Carolina, especially the Outer Banks, which is not too far from where we are here at South Central. All right, some agriculture. North Carolina is the top exporter of sweet potatoes in the entire United States and one of the top in all of the world. Us, little old NC, we are real good at growing some sweet potatoes. We're also very good at growing tobacco. All right, and fishing. All right, so deep sea fishing or right here off the coast. All right, so people can charter a boat, which means they just kind of like rent it out for the day and go fish. All right, so Here's our traded goods and services. All right, so how do we trade? What about currency? So if we're trading with, I don't know, say like Japan or Singapore or Hong Kong, like we saw on our trade map, all right, how do we trade with someone in order to get ourselves in a favorable balance of trade? How do we make sure that when we do trade back and forth that we have more exports than imports, all right? Well, first we have to start with currency. All right, so here on rates.com, all right, so the US dollar is worth 100 cents. Okay, the euro, which is used across Europe, let's look at this column right over here, which is updated as of today. All right, the euro is worth $1.19 of our money, so it's worth more. The British pound is worth $1.35 of our money. All right, so the United States dollar, if you were to go and exchange, let's say that you had 20 bucks in your wallet and you were on a trip to London, you were on a trip to England, and you got there, and in the airport there's a little customs exchange place where you can go and turn in your American money and cash it in for British money, which is the British pound. It's their version of a dollar. So if you went to get 20 bucks, you would get less than that in British pounds because their money is of more value. All right, so the Swiss franc, all right, is just worth just a little less. All right, the Japanese yen is worth way more than ours is. All right, and the Chinese one is also worth more than ours just because of their trading. All right, so let's move along to trade advantages, and actually we're going to put that onto the next video. So this has been Global Economies Part 1.